on this episode, we're going to have AEW Dynamite with the debut of Brock Anderson teaming with Cody Rhodes. We even got the first ever MMA fight between Jake Hager and Wardlow, and many other things are taking place. We are now seeing more showcase coming from the newer talent on the 205 Live, and also we're now in the first part of New Japan Strong Ignition, with the main event being Kratos versus Kojima, and also we'll throw in a DDT event, which was the final show that they ever seen, the faction known as All Out. So, let's get ready to start another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that it's pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, JR here. So before I begin reviewing AEW Dynamite, I want to apologize those from the last episode I posted out. I said I was gonna do Kizuno Road. Apparently, they did not have the televised of today's show with them on the 18th of June. I did not expect that, but however, I'm not sure if I want to reveal the results of that match since I cannot get a good clearing on that. But however, I will move forward with this episode with what I got right now. So right now, I think let's start with AEW Dynamite with the first opening match, which was in fact an MMA fight, which is MMA sanction rules. It was Jake Hager and Wardlow. There were a lot of good factors that they put out in the commentary section that Wardlow has been unstoppable in cage fights. I mean, look, there was that first ever cage match with Cody, and then there was the blood and guts match, and of course Hager has the undefeated streak in the cage fights, 3-0. So it kind of played out, but this match was kind of like, okay, this is gonna fall into favor in the Hager, but you seen in this moment, Wardlow is an unstoppable force, and I was surprised with Wardlow. I mean, he doesn't have experience in MMA fighting, but he pulled through. But however, it was Hager's submission, the triangle silencer, whatever they call it. He put him down and he passed out. Now, he did not tap out. The only way this match was going to be over is either by submission or TKO or referee's decision. There was no judges involved. However, the match ended with Hager winning in the second round. However, post-match, Shawn Spears attacked Hager and then Jericho tried to intervene. Then, of course, that weasel MJF. But of course, out of nowhere, MJF, who was afraid of Sammy, decides to come out. So you can see the feud between the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle is far, far from over. Now, should I mention the main event is going to feature a very unique six-man tag team match. We have the Elite Hunter, Frank Kazarian, Penta, and of course Eddie Kingston teaming up. They have a strong message towards the Elite. As you know, their feud between them, the Elite took out both Pac and Ray Phoenix from the Death Triangle, leaving Penta standing. And of course, Moxley was taken out, Eddie going on his own. And of course, the history with Frankie Kazarian now going against all of them. Now, as you know what happened last week, Team Taz are imploding within itself. As you know, of course, Brian Cage decided not to use the FTW title to knock out 10. He got into the face of Ricky Starks. Now, however, because of this, it led into a 2-on-1 disadvantage. However, Taz was still not done with Hangman, so he decided to set Powerhouse Hobbs to finish the job. So basically, there's that, but it's still unclear about Brian Cage. About, is he going to be kicked out? Is he going to be stripped from the FTW title? That is still unclear right now. They never explained it. But however, we will see what happens the following week. Now, the next match, we have the handicap match between the men of the year. I'm talking about Ethan Page and, of course, Scorpio Sky taking on Darby Allin. Now, they think this match was because in the story they're playing out, they believe that that Darby cannot succeed without him. Now, the match was pretty good. Not to mention, Darby once again was being a little sneaky, used zip ties on Ethan Page. However, they think they proved the point that he is nothing without Sting. But Sting, he's very old fashioned. You see, he'll probably tell them the next week, it doesn't matter if you won. The only thing that matters is he stood his ground against the two bozos. Now, they may not like that because they think it doesn't matter. But everybody can say Darby Allin actually pulled it off, knowing he did not win, but he stood his ground against two imbeciles who have a problem with him, claiming they're better than everyone else. Now, the next match, we have Orange Cassidy along with the Best Friends and Chris Statlander taking on Caesar Bononi and the Wing, being accompanied by the Wingman. Now, for weeks, Ryan Bennett has been trying to have Orange Cassidy join the Wingman, believing that his fashion look is a direct insult, that he can do better. He refused to respond. And then every time that he's thrown out of the ring, they try to put Orange Cassidy, put gel on his hair, tan, even put him the jacket. However, the Best Friends did help, took care of the problem, but Orange Cassidy pulled off multiple Superman punches only on, what's their name? Meneth, JD Drake, and of course Bononi, allowing himself to get pinned, and Peter Avalon being dramatic, can't believe that they lost, which was kind of like winning a soap opera. Now, as we know recently, we know that Jungle Boy will face Kenny Omega on the 26th of June for the AEW World Title. However, Kenny has been trying to antagonize Jungle Boy for a while, but you should have known that Kenny has a plan trying to soften up Jungle Boy so he doesn't have, it's not 100% full capacity on their match next week, or should I say next Saturday. But however, Jungle Boy was able to overturn it, but as Kenny and Don Callis ran like cowards, leaving MT Nakazawa behind. Now, as we know, the feud between both Matt Hardy and Christian goes a long way to the how do I say, to the Attitude Era. It appears that Matt Hardy believes in his godforsaken mind that Christian violated the terms of agreement that their feud would end. However, Christian had no problems being, but however, he felt that Christian just came into his place, and then somehow they were able to lock him up in a cage, so Hardy can give him an offer he couldn't refuse. He's begging him to retire to be with his daughter, that he has no business being in AEW, but there is no way Christian is just gonna walk away. So we may see a match between these two, where of course Matt Hardy will not rest until Christian leaves AEW. Now, we get the interesting match. We got Brock Anderson making his AEW in-ring debut, teaming with the American Nightmare Cody, along with his dad, Arn Anderson, as their coach, taking on the Factory's QT Marshall, or should we just call it Marshall? I don't give a damn. And of course, Aaron Solo being accompanied by Nick Camarado. I have to say, Brock Anderson, I see like a bit of the spin image of his dad. You know, I have seen the Four Horsemen. Mostly when I think of the Four Horsemen with Arn Anderson, I remember all the things he did in the past when he was a Four Horseman. And he has a lot like him. He looks more like him. And the match was great, I have to say. But of course, they allowed him to be over, which is great because we're seeing a second generation wrestler. I think it fits perfectly with Cody. Cody's a second generation wrestler too, so that kind of fits well. I wouldn't expect Brock to pick up the victory for his team, but he did. But the real question now in this storyline they're playing is, this is far from over between the Factory and the Nightmare family. Well, QT may not like that the fact that Aaron Solo got pinned by Brock Anderson. He probably would say that Brock Anderson is in the wrong team. So we'll see where they're going to go in that direction. Now, we get a very interesting interview by JR, of course. Who doesn't love JR? Come on. He has an opportunity to talk to Andrade, El Idolo. So he asked him why did he make the decision to come to AEW. He said there's a lot of talent. True. But however, JR wasn't dumb. Like, he had that distinct feeling that he would go after the TNT title or the AEW World title, which is obvious. And of course, it is on his mind. So he feels like he deserves an opportunity. So that's one of the goals he does have. But however, his relationship with Vicky, basically, we all know Vicky. He explained, my family, generation of wrestlers. Vicky was married a member of the Guerrero family. So basically it fits perfectly, but he did state there's going to be a surprise. Now, do I think there's going to be like a, how do I say this? Like a faction being formed? Possibly. Who knows? Now we get another interview with Hangman Page. Now, Hangman Page is willing to accept the challenge against Powerhouse Hobbs. But however, this is the very interesting part. Every time Alex Marvez mentions Kenny Omega, he is trying to avoid it. Now, I think some of you are trying to say, okay, why is he avoiding it? Simple. He hasn't crossed the bridge yet. Right now, he just wants to focus on that. But however, he knows he's not dumb. He knows that sooner or later, he will confront Kenny. But however, he has been hanging out with his new friends, the Dark Order. He even said John Silver will be returning in the ring soon. And of course, all this. But however, he did give props to Evil Uno, despite the fact that he lost in the TNT match against Miro. He did stated that he has been the best performer of that night, and he deserves a celebration. So I think that's pretty much it. And the commentaries even mentioned that he's been avoiding the subject about Kenny. So we'll see what happens with that. Now we get the return of Penelope Ford. I don't know when. I think the last time we saw her was during that Arcade Anarchy, where the match she had against Chris Statler. I forgot about that. However, she's facing against Julie Hart, who's being accompanied by, of course, the how do I say this? The Varsity Blondes. And I have to say it was a good opportunity for her to get in the ring against Penelope Ford. And I think she held her own. I think she really got put over. I think because right now, as you guys may or may not have noticed, it appears the Varsity Blondes are becoming a very popular group that people can get behind, and I have to say, yes, I agree. They should be, all of them should be signed with AEW. I would love to see them anyway. But however, in post-match and during the match ended with Penelope Ford putting her in a very strong submission. Once the match was over, Aubrey Edwards tried to get her off of Julia, but she refused to let go. So the Varsity Blondes had to help her out, try to get her away from Julia. But it didn't end there. Miro shows up saying that was a direct insult to Kip's wife. Now, you can say this right now in yourselves when you hear this, going, wait a minute, Miro, didn't you assaulted Kip Sabian? You see, this is the way I see it. If Penelope Ford down the line decides to support Miro, Kip's come back saying, what the hell? Why are you supporting the man who injured me? So basically, there's going to be like a division. But there are fans right now that I've been seeing on social media. They're saying we could see Lana show up. That is a definitely possibility. Or should we just call her by her real name, CJ? But it is a possibility. Now, as you know, we have right now, there's still no word about who will be Britt Baker's next opponent, but it's obvious that the opponent that wants to challenge her is Nyla Rose. Vicky Guerrero comes out saying that, she will put the title on line, but however, that there will be a match. But she did state that Tony Khan did give her a favor and she's going to get it. Next week, there's going to be a tag match, Britt Baker and Rebel versus Nyla Rose and Vicky. And they all laugh, thinking this is a kind of a joke. However, we'll see what happens, because if they think it's a joke, then this is going to be a very, very interesting storyline that we're going to step in. Now, the main event was Frankie Kazarian, Eddie Kingston, and Penta El Zero Miedo taking on the Elite, Matt Jackson, and the Good Brothers. This was a very good match, but for a fact, because of the Elite being very tactical, try to cheat their way through, it did happen when Penta had everything under control, but Nick Jackson popped up out of nowhere using the little air spray onto Penta's eyes and basically costing him the match. But the real question is, who will be the ones to take out the Elite completely, since now they're becoming a stronger faction that we're seeing. So we'll see what happens the following week on AEW Dynamite. Now, a friendly reminder, AEW Dynamite will return to its regular prime date on Wednesday, on June 30th, and it will be great seeing it back on Wednesday, because watching a Friday is kind of like messing up the ratings, but that's another conversation. Okay, so we got WWE's 205 Live. As I mentioned before, they're displaying new talent involved in this brand. The first opening match was Asher Hale, going back now to singles competition, taking on the new guy that we saw last week, Grayson Waller. I have to say the match was very interesting, because we're seeing Asher Hale, who is a very tough competitor, but however, Grayson, he's a bit of a cocky dude. But it was a good match. And you wouldn't expect a whole lot, because, like I said, we're seeing brand new talent come left and right. There was one talent I was expecting, and that was Trey Baxter, formerly known as Blake Christian. But that's another time when we see it. But it was a good match. But however, I was surprised that Grayson Waller somehow won the match. Now, he wanted to show his respect to Asher Hill, but he decided just to play little games with him, and he just took off just like that, which was very, very disrespectful. But sooner or later, we may see those two fight once again. Now, August Gray in the back decided to declare that he's officially done dealing with both Tony Nese and Arya Daivari. Now, if you recall, Arya Daivari and Tony Nese have issues towards the new guys in 205 Live. That includes August Gray. Now, Daivari did state that he was going to say he's not done with him, but he did state that he's going to be ringside with Tony Nese. But however, Gray got into his head, telling him, "What? You don't think Nese can do things by himself? I'm going to watch everything in the back." And Tony, and of course, Daivari stayed in the back. So basically, he got him really, really good. Now, the main event, of course, being in this, was Tony Nese versus Ikemen Jiro, which was a good match. You see a former Cruiserweight champion taking on Ikemen Jiro. It was so unbelievably good. You wouldn't expect a whole lot, because this is one of those stories like, okay, we got the 205 original taking on the newcomer. But the real question is, who will win, the newcomer or the OG? But I have to say, Ikemen Jiro did an impressive move, even though I keep saying to people I like unique wrestlers. Ikemen Jiro is no exception because he wrestles in his jacket. And that's what I like about him. And he pulled off with that little amazing kick, putting him in the 1-2-3. I mean, he could be down the line for a chance for the NXT Cruiserweight title. But we'll see that when that time comes. But right now, let's keep moving forward. Okay, so this is the beginning of the first part of Ignition from New Japan Strong. The opening match was, of course, continuing more with the Alex Coughlin challenge. This time, his next opponent was coming from Impact Wrestling, the Walking Weapon, and the current Cruiserweight Champion, Josh Alexander. I was so happy to see it, but I have to say, this was really one of those matches where you see this young lion. Is he ready to graduate while dealing with the guy who dubs himself the Walking Weapon? I have to say, this was an amazing match because it showed, okay, Coughlin can hang with a guy like Josh Alexander, but the question is, can he actually pull it off? The answer is nope. He got submitted, and apparently Josh Alexander really pulled off an impressive win with that, and that's why they call him the Walking Weapon. Now, the next match we have, of course, is a tag team match. We have Barrett Brown and Bateman taking on Fred Rosser and Adrian Quest. Now, this whole feud between these two teams happened because Barrett Brown felt that Adrian Quest has been stealing the glory from him. Now, Barrett Brown in the beginning had a losing streak. He was losing his control, and then he didn't appreciate the fact that every time whenever a team wins, everybody wins, but he feels like it doesn't feel like one. Not until he turned his back on Adrian Quest and teamed up with Bateman and costing Adrian Quest to win. And this is one of those matches where Fred Rosser did not like what he saw, so he decided to step in the back, the be have Adrian Quest's back. But however, the match really showed, okay, this is an individual who sided with a nut job, and it kind of tells Barrett Brown doesn't care if Bateman wins the match, long as it makes him happy to see those who made him look bad lose. So it kind of played out in its pretty way. But however, I did like how Fred Rosser got in the face of Bateman. We could see a possible match between those two, but it would also show maybe Adrian Quest will have Fred Rosser's back when that day comes. Now, as you know, we have seen a brand new tag team, we have a strong openweight champion, which is, however, there were those who may have questioned, maybe a small number, will we ever see championships in New Japan Strong? And I think the answer has been questioned because apparently they announced in 3 weeks there's going to be a tournament called Tag Team Turbulence, or as we call it, Triple T. It's going to have like trophies and whatever the winner's going to get. Now, if this is going to involve showing we're going to have tag team champions in, of course, New Japan Strong, I'm all for it. But however, they already announced 8 teams are going to be involved, and here are the teams: TJP and Clark Connors, Violence Unlimited, Chris Dickinson and Brody King, the DKC and Kevin Knight, Team Filthies, JR Kratos and Danny Limelight, Blue Justice and Ren Narita, Wheeler Yuta and Fred Yehai, the West Coast Wrecking Crew, Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs, and finally, the Good Brothers. Now, I did talk to one of my friends who I asked him what does he think of this. He doesn't picture the Good Brothers winning, but I asked him who he would like to see. He said it could be Brody, King, and Dickinson. For me, I agree with him, but however, there is another tag team I do think that could possibly win, and that is Team Filthy's Limelight and Kratos. And we probably say, why would I think that? Think about it. Team Filthy wants to control New Japan Strong. That's always been their case. So they're trying to be the faction that controls New Japan Strong. So it fits perfectly. Now, the main event is JR Kratos taking on Satoshi Kojima. This was a match that I loved because Kojima's legendary. But does Kojima has what it takes to take down a monster like Kratos? I have to say we weren't sure because it did tell how Kratos is a monster that cannot be put down. But however, somehow Kojima was able to pull off the lariat and put him down with the 1, 2, 3. So this is gonna be great. I'm like happy that it was a good match to see with Satoshi Kojima and JR Kratos. But let's see what's gonna happen. But the next series that we're gonna see in the Ignition, we're gonna have, of course, the strong openweight title on the line between Tom Filthy Lawler and Carl Fredericks. I don't know what other matches they're gonna put in for this one coming up next week, but I'm definitely am excited to see what else they're gonna throw in. So as it for right now, I think we'll end it right here and move forward with DDT. Okay, the last thing I'm going to review, this is coming from DDT. This is from um, the event, one of their previous events back in March on the 12th of March in Shinkiba. This one is called All Out Produced All Out Final Fight. This was an event where the faction known as All Out made a decision to disband due to the fact there have been unsuccessful matches as a stable faction, but they have found success either with other people or other places. But as a unit, they haven't been cohesive that well, even when they face guys like Damnation. Now, the opening match was um, All Out member Yuki Ino taking on his former friend, current Damnation member Yuji Ino. It was a very good match because these are two huge dudes that they're like sumo, but the real question, who will come up with the advantage? For me, I thought Yuki Ino was going to in it, since I mentioned he's an all out. But however, it was Yuji Ino who pulled it off with an impressive powerhouse way to put him down and pinning him, putting him on a 1, 2, 3. The next match we have Chris Brooks, Shota, and Yuki Ino taking out All Out members Shuna Katsumura, Akito, and Konosuke Takeshita. This was also one of those matches where you will probably say, okay, will All Out win this one because this is their show? The answer is yes, but I was impressed how Akito was able to win the match because he was very impressive from the very first time I've ever witnessed him. I mean, he is 1/3 of the tag team, six-man tag team champions along with Shota. But it's very clear that this is going to be one of those matches where it tells, okay, it's coming to an end. Now, the next match, this was very, how do I put this, unorthodox. Originally, it was a six-man tag team match. This was between Antonio Honda, Tetsuya Endo, and Trans Am Hiroshi. Now, the reason I say it was unorthodox is because Tetsuya Endo, he's Damnation. He doesn't give a damn about anybody but himself and his friends. Teaming up with Smile Squash consisted of Soma Takao, who's also a member of Damnation, teaming with Yasu Urano and Harashima. This match, the way it ended, it was ended in a no contest because of the affiliation between both Soma Takao and Tetsuya Endo being part of the same faction, Damnation. But later they decided to switch. Okay, let's do this a triple threat tag team match. So first team was Honda, Hiroshi versus Damnation's Takoa and Endo versus Smile Squash with Arashima and Yasu Urano. This was also ended up in a no contest match. So you're like, oh my god. But finally they went back to their usual six-man tag team match. So this time we had Antonio Honda teaming up with Arashima, Yasu Urano, while Damnation, both Takao and Endo teamed up with Trans and Hiroshi. It was a very good match. I have to say, I think they were playing a little game with us. I think to play like, okay, how can all these guys get along? But when you put Damnation back together, that kind of explains it. Okay, these guys need to be together. They're the heel faction. That plays out in its own way. But it did worked out. But however, it was Harashima who put um, Endo away for the 1-2-3. So his team, Honda, Urano, and Harashima won the match. Now the main event, this is an all-out showdown. One corner we have Yuki Ino teaming with Shuna Katsumata versus all out Akito and Konosuke Takeshita. It was a very good match because it kind of showed this is the last time we see all four of them together, and it kind of did. Now, to me, I was biased because anything could happen, but I have to say it was Yuki Ino who pulled off the victory, and I know this was a very emotional time for him because at the end they did a very interesting promo. I think the real question is what's next for all four of these individuals, and that is a very tough question to ask because now they're disbanded, and I'm sure fans will never forget All Out because I'm started getting into these guys since early this year, but I'm going to miss them dearly because they were a fun team to watch. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed me reviewing all of this. I'm very sorry I could not review New Japan Pro Wrestling's the fourth day of Kazunara because it was not televised. It's not even on the New Japan Live on Demand. I'm very, very sorry about that. However, there will be more stuff to watch ever since then. Um, Coming up, I got, of course, the entire episode will be Pro Wrestling Noah's with a 4-day show called Neo Breeze. This is going to be a very interesting event to follow. Um, I'm going to have my hands full on this. But coming up after that, I may do a DWZ discussion trying to explain to many of you what is the difference between All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan. Because I mentioned their styles refer to themselves as New Japan has strong style. All Japan has how to say King's Road. But there's another style coming from Pro Wrestling Noah. It's a hybrid, and I forgot what they call it, but I will reveal that in that discussion when that day happens. So there's that. I may throw it on a Saturday, on a Sunday, but however, I may or may not do it due to the fact I kind of forgot that this Sunday is Hell in a Cell. I may review that as well. But also those who follow me on my podcast, um, I will be doing some interesting topics to talk about. Very interesting ones. Recently I decided I'm going to talk about why the WWE are considering trying to bring back wrestlers that they released from two different time periods at this point for the last couple of months. Um, there'll be other things I will throw in when that day happens. Uh, so I think that's pretty much it for all of you. I'm trying to plan out everything out as much as possible. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time in the same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, mwah, and have a nice day. Bang!